Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Cities with John. I am this old gamer and I am thrilled to have you along for the ride today as we are all set for Downtown episode 14. It's going to be a doozy. I'm glad to have you. It's a beautiful day on Sloop John Island, and on our last episode we built a tram park with a surrounding residential area featuring modular apartments, not modular condominiums like I kept saying. Sorry, smileys. And today we're working on the other side of the canals. It's going to be a lot of fun. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This Old Gamer is paid for by contributions by viewers like you and by...
At Laurel Oil Products, we're doing what it takes to clean up our image and clean up our communities. We're making an impact on our environment and our employees every day. Listen to what our great team has to say about these changes.
I think the oxygen levels are finally getting back to normal.
Planting a lot of trees, know that much. I've lost all my savings. Oh no.
I'm just so sick of planting these trees.
You're fired. Laurel Oil Products. It's a work in progress, okay? We're trying. So I hope you are doing well out there, and welcome back to another episode of Cities with John. We are building this new district over here, so kind of the idea behind this district is kind of forking out to the mountain area of the map. The mountain valley here on Two Brothers Island is massive, and it looks awesome, and it creates a really good backdrop. And at the other end of this, we have the ore industry district, where the people's mines are located.
The people's mines.
And here we are creating a district of mostly residential, but we are going to put a little commercial in it. We're going to call this district Riverview. The Riverview district is going to feature a lot of colorful housing, for lack of better term. So we're going to have lots of colorful buildings over here to kind of go along with that colorful bridge that we have crossing downtown. I tried at first to use Theme Mixer 2 on this area. Actually, that was the main reason that I put the district together and named it right off the bat. If you watch my shows, I usually don't name my districts all that often. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't start off with just making the district and using the little wand and making the district. I actually build the whole thing and then name it later. And sometimes I just forget about naming it because, it doesn't really matter all that much when you're playing this style of game that I'm playing with basically no vanilla rules. If I had districts set up, I could obviously do a lot of different things like different tax brackets and all that kind of stuff, but I usually don't do that. I don't know if there's an incentive for using all these in-game tools for design play like I'm doing, but I usually don't. So anyway, we are using a lot of really cool apartments that I've got off the workshop. And we all of a sudden have a mass exodus. Everybody's already moving out. I believe that was from me destroying the theme manager buildings. But getting back to the districts and all that. So put the district together and was going to use theme manager. And I set it up to formulate these buildings that you're seeing here. And when it was all said and done, I took a look at it and I didn't like it. I used some other buildings as well, but I really just can't get the look I want using the theme manager. So scrapped all that and started over. So this is kind of like the highlight of this area. It's a large river walk, I guess you could call it. Kind of similar to than you see in river cities and river towns that have nice riverfronts. They have like an area where people can just kind of go and sit and hang out and congregate. And it takes you all the way down to the actual water. Now, one thing that I kind of, when I got done with this, I kind of thought about was being so close to this canal. I mean, there's a lot of movement in the water here. Of course, this is sped up a little bit. But even right here where you see the finished product, or the first portion of this finished product, there's a lot of moving water. And so I kind of thought to myself, well, this might not be the safest place to hang out. You could possibly get swept away. But hopefully you won't. But there is a lot of water movement, and of course we use procedure objects to make that waterfront, and just kind of made it multiple stairs and multiple steps. I did run some invisible pathways around there, but if people are using them, they are probably underneath the procedure objects. So as people do end up standing at the top of it and stuff like that, but they're not necessarily going all the way down to the edge of it. So that's something I'm going to work on, but I wasn't really all that concerned about it for this episode. It took a long time to throw that together just because I had to make sure all the step inclines looked right, etc., etc. So we're adding some gravel decals in here. And these gravel decals, it's going to be kind of like a big open gravel pathway and a flat area at the top of this that will, be easy access. And I think it kind of ties along with a riverbank and gives it more of a natural feel. And then, obviously these steps were built after the fact. I'm trying to kind of separate this area in a lot of different ways. For one, I'm using some buildings that I have not used at all on this map, and I'm also using different palm trees. So these palm trees here I have not really used all that much, maybe haven't used them at all. I for sure haven't used them in my downtown episodes. I've used similar ones, but not those same ones. And here you can kind of see in the Riverwalk steps there's a bit of a gap there, so I kind of just added a gravel curb that I think just fit in very nice there. But lots of colorful buildings, and here you get a good shot of that canal. You might notice the water is flowing back instead of out. The main reason for that is I had to put a water source in that corner there by the curve there by the bridge, and I kind of kept it that way because at the time I wasn't overly concerned. I didn't think it would make that big of a difference. I kind of wish I would have worked a little bit more on the canals. That was a long time ago. You can check out that episode in the archives, but I kind of threw those canals together pretty quickly and added some water sources pretty quickly, but nevertheless, it doesn't matter. The water still looks pretty cool flowing along that canal. And there's plenty of decorating and decals and props and all that to be done to make this really fit in. But I think it turned out pretty cool. I really like it. This would be a cool place to come down and just relax, and be by the water. It's far away from the beach, so it's a good alternative for the people that live in this little neighborhood in the Riverview district. So now we're kind of going along and creating some banks to this river. So these are some other gravel, and I don't want to say decals because they plop down like buildings. These are the classic gray decal rocks by Gray Flame. Kids, just remember, not orange, not red. A Gray Flame has made these beautiful rocks, as he is a rock master on the workshop. So we're using these to create a more realistic riverbed and riverbank. The in-game terraforming banks are kind of dull, and a lot probably has to do with my theme, but I had to kind of keep that theme the way it was just because the mountain range would have looked a little bit on the funny side. So we added this community pool in here. I'm kind of setting up some condos around it. The community pool is a park asset. It is built into the game, and I think this serves a good purpose over here versus trying to put pools for every one of these complexes and stuff, I decided to just have a community pool where, holy cow, man. Okay, so I guess people are walking all the way across to the tram depot. Man, that's a long way to walk. We might have to fix that. My citizens love walking, which is probably an indication that I am not using mass transportation very well. Yeah, the buses, I haven't really used all that many buses, and I do want to use them in this area just to get people over to the tram lines. I did not run that tram line through this community. It is over on the other side of, well, it's on the same side of the canal, but it's kind of on the other side of the road there. And there is going to be quite a bit of people wanting to use that tram because it really takes you around the heart of the city. And I've added some additional connections in the future office hub of downtown that's kind of right in the middle there. Okay, so we set up this bus line, and wow, is it being used. Whew. That would be congested. Where is the social distancing, by the way? Yeah, we are already rocking. These buses are 100% full. They're taking people all the way over in this general area. There's another one. So it's bringing them over there, and then they're catching the tram, and that's taking them where they want to go. So that works out just perfectly, actually. So as I said in the beginning of the episode, this is going to be kind of closer to some industry that some of it has not been built yet, but it's right down the road from the ore mining area. And I'm probably going to end up connecting that to this area one way or another, but I'm not doing that on this episode. As the usual, I went way too long. I upgraded my video editor to Movie Studio 17. So this is a Vegas program, and on a random sidebar, I do like it. I've been a Vegas guy for a long time. I used Vegas a lot in my spare time when I was in college, and I was doing video editing classes at school, but couldn't really afford to get Apple products at that point. And nowadays, I probably could afford it, but don't want to. So the Movie Studio is a very affordable version of a very solid editor. But one thing that it does not have, as far as speeding up video, it has kind of a speed slider handle, so to speak. You can use it. It's very easy to use. But Vegas Pro has something called velocity, where you can just change the speed of a video all the way up to about 64 times speed, which is incredibly fast. Well, when I upgraded to Movie Studio 17, I was hoping it would have something a little bit different. It does not. It is exactly the same when it comes to that. Vegas Pro has been on sale recently, but it's still a little bit more than I want to shell out at this point. I could have easily got it, but it's not all that much different from Movie Studio 17. Yes, it does have a lot more, I guess you could say, professional level type stuff in it, but it's not really the, I don't know. I just didn't think it'd be worth shelling out all that extra money. But let me know in the comments if you are a video editor of any type, not necessarily City Skylines. What video editor do you use, and what do you recommend, and all that? Because I will say this about Movie Studio before I move on back to City Skylines, the game you're watching. It can be a little bit buggy at times. Movie Studio 16 especially locked up quite a bit, and it wasn't like an everyday all the time thing, but when you started having multiple transitions with special effects on some clips, and I don't do that all too often. It was really taxing, and I have a heavy PC, so there's no reason for it to be locking up other than just actual software issues. So building a little strip here of some apartments kind of in between the roads. It's definitely going to be an area that people are going to not be able to sleep some nights if there's a lot of traffic. But I do have a sound barrier against the interstate there, and we are going to end up putting more trees than we already have. I'm using these King Lino parking lots instead of just doing the actual parking lots, just kind of plopping those down and then just making them look a little bit more realistic as far as the entrance. I can tell you one thing that I have not particularly mastered when it comes to city skylines, and feel free to answer this question for me, but how do you guys put entrances and exits in parking lots and things other than what I just did right there? I mean, that's kind of like a simplistic version of how to do it, but even in businesses and things that you might have for on your map, for example, like gas stations and stuff, having entrances for those, I know how to do it, but it creates a junction just about every time, and I know that I could tweak it with Traffic Manager, but I'd like to know a simple way to do it, because a lot of times if you don't do it, if you don't enter some sort of entrance to it, there's not really a good way to make it look like there's like a ramp getting into it. So it almost looks like you're driving into a curb. Like I said, I do know how to obviously put a road and make it appear like it's going into it, but just something I would like to get better at it. You know, what's great about this game is as I cross that 1,000 hours line, I'm constantly learning new things. And for those of you who haven't seen all my videos or heard every little thing that I've said, I don't watch a ton of city skylines on YouTube. I do watch a few particular channels, and shout out to Prez, who answered my Pink Floyd question on one of his latest videos. But I don't watch them like all the time, and I also don't really go online and look at cities all that much. I will look at Google Maps at times just to kind of get an idea of maybe a particular, like if I needed a particular intersection or something like that. But I don't look at it and say, okay, well, I need to create a version of that. And nothing against any creators that do that. Obviously, there's huge creators out there that do that and have 400,000 times the subscriber count that I do, or whatever the case may be. I guess not 400,000, but that's a very popular way to do it. A lot of people model their cities around particular areas and particular parts of the world. I just don't do that. I just kind of freelance it, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are going, "Yeah, we can tell." But I don't know. That's just kind of my style of building. I just kind of like to go from memory of places maybe I've been or places that I am more familiar with from memory. I just really don't like studying up on things like that. Just don't really have time to do it. I barely have time to play the game a lot of times. Everything's kind of getting back to somewhat normal for me, so I'm working full time and all that good stuff, so it can be a little busy, but I still love playing City Skylines, and I'm really enjoying this downtown series. I hope you are too, and I thank you for being here. So I'm keeping the trend going of just having a lot of walkways and cut-throughs everywhere in the downtown area. I just try to keep that going because I want to make things as easy as possible for my citizens. And there's a lot of sidewalks, and with sidewalks, I like to kind of decorate those pathways with different things, and I use a lot of curbs in this build and a lot of vegetation. This area that's in between these apartment buildings was kind of sunken in, and I kind of thought about doing maybe like a big ditch and decided against it. I thought maybe a ditch with maybe like some, overgrowth and stuff, but I was like, this is a really kind of a nice area. Didn't really want to do overgrowth. I thought that wouldn't look as nice. But for those ditch lovers out there, stick around because I build a ditch a little bit later on in this episode when we start building some of the commercial districts. Here I'm just using one of the ploppable pavement decals. You can use those when you have those weird corners happen with your sidewalks and things, and it kind of covers up those weird corners for you. Also had quite a bit of terrain height. I don't want to say issues, wasn't really issues, but the roads were a little bit higher. So what I'm doing here is just kind of using some greenery to hide some of the height terrain issues. Yes, I could lower the nodes or raise the buildings, but I kind of like these little inclines that they're on. I think it turned out really well. So looking north to the Riverview residential district, we have this small stretch of land in the forefront, and we're going to put some commercial buildings here. So we started off with this Wells Fargo bank. That's who I have my car loan through, although they are not my normal bank. Wells Fargo, though. And we also have a roast beef phenomenon known as Arby's. And why not a McDonald's and a 7-Eleven? Whew! Man, the property value is going to skyrocket because of all these local food chains. Actually, it might skyrocket. I think these are the first fast food restaurants that I have had close to downtown other than Starbucks and some places like that. So it's been a while since I've done the drive-through things, and the drive-throughs on City Skylines have improved. There's multiple ways to kind of make a drive-through work, but some of these have the drive-through kind of built in. Some of them, like the McDonald's, does not. The Arby's does. It actually has a drive-through lane there, you see. And it looks pretty good overall. Makes things easier on me. I'll take it, and I will just use that. 7-Eleven just kind of plopped here in the middle. And then we're just going to add some curbs here. Just kind of have a back entrance and a front entrance. Widen up a little bit of this. So this will be at the other end of the Riverview district. I don't have the bus connections going through here just yet, and I might not, because this is kind of I don't want to say it's this would be a place that mostly the local residents are going to eat at, not necessarily people coming in from the interstate. But by the way, that was an interstate connection we made entering into Riverview, and it's already being pretty heavily used, I would say. So this Wendy's that I can't decide exactly where I want to put is a pretty new looking Wendy's, not an old looking Wendy's, and this is a newer development, so that makes sense. On the other side of the canal, where I plan on doing some future industrial places, we'll also probably have some residential over there that will be more so, that'll be an older district. I don't want to say that's going to be the old part of town, but it might end up being. I do kind of want to make an old part of town. I don't want to have just nothing but modern and stuff like that. I want to have some older part of town and an older part of downtown, I guess you could say. Whoa. So creating this little drive-through to the Wells Fargo, also driving cars completely crazy in the process. By the way, this is a community school that is it's alternative elementary school, I think is what the description says on it. But I do need to have more schools. I do need to focus on education for no other reason than I don't have that many schools, so I need to start putting some more in from a decoration standpoint, I guess, more than anything. I do like my Sims to be educated, though. I feel sorry for all the people that live downtown, the thousands of people that live in the downtown condos and residential areas over there. They don't even have an elementary school. It's like all you can do is work in retail, which apparently pays enough money for you to live in the 27 condo complex. So just adding a little details here or there, and then making sure I'm using Traffic Manager. I don't want cars parking, and we have a van just going runaway van here. Oh, yep, he really wanted that parking spot. But I don't want cars parking on the side of the roads that I'm using to kind of create entrances to these places. I want them to actually use the parking lots. So we'll fix this little corner up. All right, so here we're going to put in a little ditch that will separate the Wells Fargo from the Wendy's. I told you, I wasn't lying to you, ditch lovers. This is actually kind of a network ditch. This is by Ronix69, and I can tell you that it looks better with themes other than tropical themes, in my opinion. The sand that it creates there on the side, or at least I think it's called sand, that yellowish texture that you can put down with your surface painter. I'm not really sold on that look. However, just like everything else in the game, with the right amount of decals and special little touches that you can do, you can really make it look good. Speaking of decals, I'm using some decals here to kind of give this a little different look than the other fast food restaurants that were down the way, a little bit more classier looking, I guess you can say. We kind of tie them all the way around, and just got to make sure they kind of sink in. I have an exciting new episode concept coming. Well, it's not. I just announced something that's not true. It's not really a new concept, but there's so many different like top 20 mods or top 10 props or top 30 greatest hits. I've got my own top list. Okay, I'm not going to tell you how many. I'm not going to tell you what it's about, but I will say that I have not seen a list like this on YouTube. So I'm kind of excited about that one. It'll be a shorter video. It won't be like these videos that are a little long at times. I hope you're enjoying it nevertheless. But yeah, it's coming soon. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily like a new, all-around new episode. I might just make one of them because I don't think it's something that can be... I'm not going to keep talking about it. It's going to ruin it. All this hype. There's a good look at what we've got done so far. Now here I'm going to put some little drainage pipes in. I figured this ditch ultimately needs to look like there's a purpose to it. So it's kind of draining some water that's coming from the other side, maybe running off of the interstate. And then we're using these new water decals. These are water surface props actually by Pekora. Somewhat newer on the workshop. I think they're actually really new. And they just create like a little bit of a water surface for you where you don't actually have to put down and make a water feature and use a water spawn point and all that, you can just use the water surface prop. And as long as you kind of tie it in and put it in the right position using Move It, I think it works out pretty well. And then I'm just using these waterfalls by my boy Kaminogi. And they're just serving as the water coming off of the interstate. And breaking news, we have a incredibly slow high-speed chase right by the Wells Fargo. Man, this is... Oh, now we have an ambulance involved in the situation. They're going all the way to downtown Riverview. I don't know what that's all about. Slow, I know that. So here's the drain exit into the river coming off of the ditch. It kind of comes, it goes underneath the road, underneath everything, underneath Arby's, and then pollutes the river so citizens can have the best drinking water possible in the Riverview district. So here I'm making a little bit of a pond, and I'm washing away. Confused! He's confused. And now he disappears. He's confused. I don't think I've ever seen that. Confused. How did I get here? What's life all about? So we're just kind of going around this pond. Kind of a random thing, I know, but I think it makes sense for why there's kind of like a separation in the road right here. And we're going to throw these stone walls around it. And you know what? This would be a great place to welcome people into this new district on Sloop John Island. It's a nice presentation right as you come into town, and goes along with the water aspects of this build, I think, as we're trying to cover this corner. There we go. Looks nice. Okay, so let's see. Procedure objects time. Riverview welcomes you. You, sir. Well, that about does it for Downtown, episode number 14. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed building it. The Riverview district is all finished and open for citizens to evacuate like they did at the beginning of the episode. Yeah. But don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more ridiculous content, and we will see you next time. I'm This Old Gamer. Bye-bye.